At least 300,000 people dead, millions displaced. And the last time they talked here in Geneva, it all ended in acrimony. With competing agendas and vicious loyalties, what can they actually talk about? This is Inside Story. Welcome to Inside Story, today coming to you from the United Nations buildings in Geneva. Of course, we've been here before. We had Geneva 1, we had Geneva 2, we had the Vienna Protocol, and just last December we had the UN Security Council resolution. What the diplomats want to achieve here in the coming 3 weeks is this. They want to refresh, re-energize the peace process. But with so many of the people who should be here engaged in the conversation not being here, what can they realistically achieve to achieve peace on the ground? Now, we'll get into the meat, the substance of our debate in just a moment. But first, James Bays, our diplomatic editor, reminds us of how we got to where we are today.
We've been here before, Peter. 2 years ago, there were talks between the Syrian opposition and the Syrian government here in Geneva. Most observers believe they collapsed because the Syrian government argued about the agenda and wasn't prepared to engage constructively. What's different this time? Well, the whole process is endorsed by the international community and by all the regional players. It took some time to get them together. They had to wait first for the Iran nuclear deal. But if you speak to diplomats, and like journalists behind the scenes, diplomats tend to be a little bit cynical, they'll tell you in reality the US is pushing for this process because it's so concerned about ISIL. That's its big concern. And on the European side, yes, they're worried about ISIL, but also about migrants. The opposition say that they are concerned because since there were talks 2 years ago, all they've seen is their situation get worse. More bombardment on the ground, more bombardment by barrel bombs, and now the Russians joining with their airstrikes, making it even more difficult. And opposition players will say that they've not been given by the US or any of its allies any sort of plan B if these talks fail as the last ones did 2 years ago. Back to you, Peter.
The thoughts there of our diplomatic editor. And we've come inside now to get the thoughts of our three guests here today on Inside Story. Let's just introduce you to them. They are Fatih Erel from Anadolu, the government-funded news agency in Turkey, Randa Kassis, the Supervision Committee of Syria member, and also Maram Daoud from the Syrian Democratic Council. Randa Kassis, naively ambitious, surely, on the part of the UN, the US and everyone else to assume that everyone would come here to Geneva 3, I guess that's what it is, and we could realistically be looking at an 18-month timeline of peace talks, a new government and elections.
You know, I would like to be a little bit realistic. I think it's a short time to, realize all of this in 18 months. I think it will take more than 18 months. I hope that, it will take only 18 months because now we have, for now, we have some problem with the other delegation. We have a problem with our delegation because, as you know, Kurds are not, they haven't received any invitations yet. So, we insist of inviting Kurds. We're not only in favor, but we insist in this because I think other members of the Supervision Committee too, they think we can't achieve any results without Kurds. They control 15% of the Syrian territory, I think 15 or 17, between 15 and 17. So they control large area of northern Syria. So we have to deal with them. So without them, we can't do anything. Even the partial ceasefire, how we can have any results without them, without the northern Syria?
I actually agree with you with the representation of Kurdish people in Syria, because there are many Kurdish people in Syria. But I don't think terrorist organizations which are related with Kurdish people should be part of Syria peace talks.
You consider them terrorists. We don't consider them terrorists. They are. They you know, they are really, they play.
According to actually US, EU, and many countries in the world recognize PKK as terrorist organization. And YPD is affiliated with PKK. And
the only militias, the only militia that are fighting Daesh and al-Nusra, they are democratic Syria forces. Also, Russia and USA back forces of democratic Syria when they are fighting on the ground. Nowadays, about 16% of the territory controlled by democratic Syria forces, and the only militias that are secular militias are democratic Syria forces.
Fatah Erel, what's the Turkish narrative here? Because it's significant that the Syrian regime is on a plane as we speak. Everyone else is very much engaged with this process. As far as the Turkish government is concerned, you have one civil servant and one advisor. Your country's government hasn't paid these guys the compliment of even sending an elected politician to engage in this process.
First of all, talks right now in Geneva between warring sides, opposition and Syrian regime. The Turkish representative in Geneva will be coming from Turkish Foreign Ministry. His name is Can Dizdar, and he's not going to be attending any peace talks. He's going to be following peace talks closely outside of United Nations. And I have to say that there are right now 2 million Syrian refugees in Turkey. And it's really big crisis for Turkey, as it affects Turkish economy, Turkish policy, Turkish lifestyle, and every way that it affects really badly right now in Turkish economy. And so Turkey really wants to solve the Syria crisis. And right now, because of Kurdish issue, which we have with terrorist organizations, we want to solve the Syria crisis while we are dealing with those Kurdish terrorist organizations. So it's really hard to solve.
You know, you told just that the United States recognize PKK as PKK and PYD. That's what you said, yeah.
They don't recognize YPD
as
terrorist organization, but PKK as terrorist organization. But YPD is affiliated with.
We're talking about YPD, so they are the branch is in Syria. So we know that the United States deals with them. They are attending, you know, to have a basis in this zone with the collaboration of PYD. So they are not for the United States, they are not as terrorist group. So if the United States and Russia and many countries consider the PYD, they consider that they play an important role in fighting the radical Islamists, and we need them in Syria.
US officials pointed out that YPD will not be part of Syria talks. Also, they are with Turkey in that point.
Let me add something. First of all, Turkey also get money from the telecom in the north of Syria. So we thanks what Turkish government do for the refugees, but also you know, there is no telecommunication in the north of Syria. We, as Syrians, on north of Syria, we use Turkish telecommunication, and also Turkish government get aid from the European Union and so on and so forth. As for PYD, the only forces that protect the borders on the north are Democratic Syria forces. There's only 90 kilometers, which is under control of FSA. It's not closed between Syria and Turkish. These 90 kilometers where the fighters, where the jihadis came from Europe to Syria.
One point I just want to move our conversation on a little bit. Randa Kassis, 2012, you're on record as saying it may be a surprise, it may not happen when we think it'll happen, but you were then predicting Assad will be gone by the end of the year. He's still there. And there is an incredible dichotomy here. Just in the past week or so, we've seen the regime get stronger. It's a lazy word from a journalist, but he's winning. Okay, he's only got 15% of the country versus everything else, but he's still in the ascendant. How's he managed to pull that off? And arguably, a supplementary question, if the Russians stay as engaged as they are, he will continue to pull it off, surely.
You know, as I know that we know that Russian, help the regime for now, but I know that Russian. They are looking for a real solution in Syria. So, political solution in Syria. And they can, the only force that they can impose something on the regime. Nobody can impose. Nobody, because the first ally is Russian, so is Russia. So we have to find out a solution, or we have to keep discussions with Russian to to emphasize this political process. So I think, the first thing we have to deal with Russian and the interest of Russians that to change something in Syria. They can't really keep Assad in the regime so as now.
How much frustration or anger, perhaps, does it generate in Ankara when the Russian foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, in effect says, OK, guys, stop the clock. I want to broaden the agenda here. I want other people included, i.e. the PKK, because arguably the situation as we're living through it today with the PKK is a construct by Erdogan, because there were peace talks. The guys from the PKK were in Ankara. There were back-channel conversations going on. There were political deals being made. The quid pro quo was the PKK goes to northern Iraq and it stays there, and then Erdogan was going to get a bigger power base within the parliamentary system to do what he wanted to do, and then granted the PKK reneged on that deal, and then there was a point when that relationship completely died. So in that sense, has Erdogan only got himself to blame, and also there's pressure from Moscow off the back of what happened to that Russian fighter jet not long before Christmas, New Year time?
As you pointed out, the problem was right now between Turkey and Russia is the jet that we took down. After that event, the relationship between Turkey and Russia is going down, but we have to start over. We have to think about how to solve Syria crisis, because it's in our region. And when we talk about PKK, if Russia push Turkey or other international organizations or countries to invite them to Syria talks, of course Turkey would not agree on that. It's one of the priority for Turkey that any terrorist organization related to any Kurdish group cannot be part of Syria talks, Syria solution.
Okay, I just want to pause for a second and put an idea to you, because can I suggest that both of yourselves have a little bit of an issue? And it's because, in part, of this, and this sums up the issue as far as Turkey's concerned. Özgür Gündem, that basically means open agenda. That's the name of the newspaper. And there, that headline, it's not a direct translation, but what that speaks to, that says the Wolf of Lausanne is in Geneva. Now, that's a reference to the Lausanne Accord, the Lausanne Protocol, August the 23rd, 1920-something, where they drew up what is now Turkey. And there and then, the Kurds / the PKK, they were completely cut out of the process. So the momentum, the historical impetus that comes up, put together in that one headline, that's incredibly powerful, that's incredibly strong. And yet, if you're to get your country back in any recognizable form, you've got to work to get past that. And can I suggest that Turkey's got to work to accept that, accept the grievances of the Kurds that these two people would like to work with, not work against?
As for me, I think the problem for Turkey to cut off PYD out of the negotiation process is when a people themselves elected their committees, elected their self-administration. It means, especially about Kurds, as for Turkey, that means there are also out of these borders, there are also Kurds in Turkey, and that means they need also their rights.
They have their rights. They live in Turkey peacefully. Kurdish people in Turkey. They are in the parliament. They are parliamentarians.
Okay, yes. What about...
We had a Kurdish president in Turkey.
Okay. What about violations in Turkey in media? What about detention, Salah Demirtas, after visiting Russia? I mean, what about the protesting, peaceful protesting that Kurds done in the south of Turkey, and the Turkish police faced them?
If there's a peaceful protest, yes, Turkish police do not intervene. They do it. As also, they do it everywhere in Turkey.
The Syrian regime said that on 2011, said there is no protesting, there is no demonstrations, they are germs, as Syrian media said. They are, it's conspiracy. It's not a freedom demonstration of freedom.
But I have to say that Turkish people Turkish government, Turkish people has no problem with Kurdish people.
It's never about the people, though, is it? It's always about the governments, what governments think about other people. It's never about how people react to each other.
Turkish government always provide rights for Kurdish people in Turkey. With the new agreements, deals, Turkish government always give Kurdish people more rights, and they live much more freely right now.
2 days ago, news journalists, Turkish journalists, got detained because they captured vehicles, cars of weapons come to Syria. So
those are particular issues, might happen anytime in Turkey.
Is there another problem, though, and it's a problem not facing you, it's a problem facing you too. It is the language which is so important just now. I mean, we're hearing backpedaling going on a lot. That has an actual noise almost. It's the language being used by John Kerry, though. It's almost as if he's copied and pasted from something from the Kremlin. Instead of talking about transitional, he's talking about national unity. You're nodding, Randa. Explain this. Why is it that what Sergei Lavrov is obviously saying he wants to hear is coming out of the State Department?
You know, yeah, we know that Americans promised, you know, to the other side of the opposition, so maybe Islamist one, because we're the secular one. So they promised them a lot of things. First, they promised them some arms, some munitions, some, you know, a lot of things. And the problem that Americans cannot do really what they plan to do. That's the reality. Because the only one that can do in Syria now is Russia. It's not even Iranian. It's Russia now. They control. They help the regime. They can impose anything. They can't do anything. So Americans just look to be present in Syria by aiding, by helping Kurds, by helping PYD. It's a question of a presence in Syria too. So,
but is it a good idea to help Syrian regime by Russian government? By helping Syrian regime, it means they are weakening opposition, Kurdish people, Turkmens in Syria, also some other small minorities.
The only thing that is really a good thing is now the regime cannot move without the authorization of Russia. So that means if really we're seeking to find a solution or to start a political solution, so Russia can impose on the regime because it's no decision, no more decision.
Okay, hang on. The key to perfect negotiation in any conflict zone is not knowing which side you are on. I'm not wishing to put words into your mouth, but you two obviously choose not to and cannot understand the other person's point of view. Staffan de Mistura today putting out a YouTube video to be broadcast in Syria, talking about stability, talking about dignity. How do you achieve that? Because you've got to achieve it through this process, because this process is the only process.
As for us in the Council of Democratic Syria, yesterday we issued our vision about confidence-building measures. As for the resolution, UN Resolution 2254, after a month of the resolution, it has to be a report about the measures, how could be done. So for us, out of the negotiation process, the measures is other process, even we are in the negotiation process or not. We have at first get a ceasefire, even there is a negotiation process or not. We have a release detainees in Syrian prisons and also kidnapped in Jaish al-Islam and Ahrar al-Sham prisons. So as for us, we have to be completely applying the resolution 2254.
Okay. The latest UN figures published this week show us that out of the total number of people on this planet, 1 out of 122 of them are on the move to another permanent location because of war and conflict. That's an astonishing statistic. I would suggest a huge proportion of that 1 out of 122 are the refugees caused by what's going on in Syria. A lot of them are being looked after by Turkey, and I'm not criticizing Turkey at all. Isn't there a vested interest for Turkey to do more and to engage or even talk about engaging with something like talking to the PKK?
Right now, talking to PKK is not in the agenda of Turkey, in no case. But as you said, right now there are many people, Syrian people especially, moving out of Syria. And even the ones in Turkey trying to move to Europe. Turkey is expected to get $3 billion from EU countries, but still they didn't receive that money. So I believe in coming months there'll be more refugees coming from Syria to Turkey, and probably most of them will try to go to Europe by agency. And we'll see what's going to happen. I think Europe has to deal with refugee crisis as Turkey has been dealing with it last 5 years.
As is the way with Inside Story, the clock has beaten us again, so it's time to say thank you to our guests. They were Fatih Erel from Anadolu, the government-funded news agency in Turkey, Rana Kassis from the Supervision Committee of Syria, and Maram Daoud from the Syrian Democratic Council. Thanks to you as well for your company. The debate continues, of course, on our Facebook page. You can tweet me. I'm at Peter Dobby1, or find me via AJ Dobbs. And you can also tweet the programme at AJ Inside Story. We're here tomorrow in Geneva as well, so join us for that if you can. From me, Peter Dobby, and the team here in Switzerland, thanks for watching. We'll do it all again at the usual time tomorrow. Bye-bye.